Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Arch College of Design and Business, it is my pleasure to extend a warm welcome to all our esteemed speakers for today's panel discussion. We are thrilled to have you here as we delve into the topic of what kind of future would you like to design for? Our aim is to inspire our students and design aspirants to think in this direction and foster meaningful discussions. Arch was set up in the year 2000 by our founder and director, Archana Surana ma'am, to impart globally relevant and specialized education in design. Through the 22 years of our existence, we have not only taught a great number of students, but also taught them to become great entrepreneurs and professionals. Arch offers undergraduate, postgraduate, and certificate level courses in fashion design, interior design, product design, jewelry design, graphic design, and design communication. Arch is affiliated to the University of Rajasthan for Bachelor's of Design and BBA degrees, and also to the Rajasthan IIT University for master's degree. For its international studies, Arch has a strategic partnership with world-renowned Pearson Education. Now, let me show you a small video visual presentation about our institution.
Repleted with ideas, thoughtfulness, fascinated by the architects, composers, so full of affection and care. By making friends, learning from them, we become the city. Each path taken in the new and in the fragments, we discover ourselves. The city educates us, empowers us. Avatars of people, in culture and tradition, people dream and the city realizes. Those mansions of God, in colors, in shapes and forms, vibrant and extravagant. Beautiful city, blessed with many more visuals. With you, my listening is immense, full of music. We wanderlust, seeking harmony. Don't we learn everything from sports? There is a lot to inspire from. There is a lot to play with. Courage to hit back. Strategizing. Team spirit. Yes, you are the city, designed to communicate, express, and enrich the sense of seeing. It's about each and every thought born inside us. We make our world every day. We are design thinkers.
Now, let me introduce our esteemed speakers who bring knowledge and experience to the table for today's panel discussion. So first, we have Mr. Dilip Joshi, sir, who is a highly accomplished professional with a strong background in design, education sectors, and sustainable development. Dilip sir's expertise lies at the intersection of design, education, and sustainable development, where he has made significant contributions. Next, we have Mr. Pradeep Sinha, sir, who is a renowned product designer and design educator with a rich history in the industry and the distinction of being the first designer in India to create the groundbreaking two-wheeler Spark. Pradeep sir is a true visionary. He now shares his expertise with aspiring designers and supports his wife's textile brand, showcasing his passion for design and entrepreneurship. Joining us is Miss Archana Surana ma'am, who is a design educator, mentor, and social entrepreneur with 28 years of experience innovating in design education. As the founder and director of Arch College of Design and Business, Archana ma'am has left an indelible mark on the industry. Her extensive involvement in various committees and recognition as a Yuva icon highlights her dedication to shaping the future of design. Also, we are all honored to have Mr. Bhargav Mistry, sir, a practicing design consultant with over 40 years of experience. Bhargav sir has worked on numerous challenging projects, and his international patent-winning design stands as a testament to his expertise. Alongside his design career, Bhargav sir has also showcased his talent as a musician with 3 internationally acclaimed music albums. Lastly, we welcome Manan Surana sir, who is the Assistant Director at Arch College of Design and Business, Jaipur. Trained as a product designer from London, Manan sir brings a problem-solving approach to his work and has successfully managed creative projects. His passion for wildlife photography and conservation further adds diverse skill sets. Today's panel discussion holds special significance as we join the World Design Organization in celebrating World Industrial Designers Day. Under the theme of The Future We Want, we aim to explore the potential of design in shaping a better future. Now, without further ado, let's start the discussion, and over to you, Bhargav sir.
Thank you, Vanchika. And good evening to everyone here, everyone in front of the screen, behind the screen, here and there, who are present for this. I hope it's going to be a lively discussion. Firstly, we are talking about the World Industrial Design Day. So I think it's important that I give you a little background in this. I think most of you may be knowing about it, but for those who don't, see, World Industrial Design Day is celebrated generally each year on the 29th of June. Why on the 29th of June? Well, the story goes into about how the World Design Organization came into existence, which earlier was called ICSID, meaning International Council for the Society of Industrial Designers. Now, this was when industrial design as a profession and as a practice had just, taken a front foot into making life much more meaningful, products, useful products, especially mass-produced products. Now, this was in the year 1957. The first Industrial Design Day was celebrated by ICSID, and world over, it has got many partnering organizations, institutions, and so on. The World Design Organization is actually ICSID only, but the name was changed to World Design Organization in 2017, January 2017. So this is the backdrop through which, so every year there is a different theme that we talk about. This time's theme, of course, as you all know, is what sort of a future are we wanting to build? Now, when it comes to future, there is so much of unpredictability over there. So the best way forward in this, as many wise people have said, The best way to predict the future is to build it yourself, or rather to design it, or to invent it, or to create it. Now, that's one way of looking at it. I personally, now to the panel, I'd like to start off the conversation like this. I personally see that there are two ways of designing the future. One is to go incrementally, like as things come on, you build on it, as new technologies come, as new systems come, as new requirements, changes come, you keep designing for that. The other is actually future thinking. Future thinking means you leapfrog into future. You don't even know what tomorrow or overmorrow or even 50 years from hence will be, because so many forces will be accountable for converting the future into something unpredictable. Forces of nature, forces of humanity, forces of society, technological forces, and your own creative forces. So where it will lead to, whether it's good or bad, we have no idea. So these are the two different paths. Some people strongly believe in leapfrogging. Some people go incremental. Rumi, a great philosopher, poet, had once said, somewhere between the good and the bad, there is a garden. I will meet you there. Now, that's a kind of future that at least I personally look forward to, whether it's leapfrogging into it or gradually proceeding to it. Now, Dilip, you have been in this field for several decades, and so has Pradeep. You have seen the past, you have seen it evolve. Now, with your knowledge, with your wisdom, and with your design abilities, how would you like to, address this interesting question? So whoever wants to take it up, Dilip, Pradeep, you can please share your thoughts with us.
Okay, Bhargav, as you have set the context, I am reminded of days in 1975 when we were working on Ahmedabad and the future. There was a project, and we were trying to envision the role of all agencies as well as what would be the situation regarding resources and so on.
Yes.
And looking back now, we see how much we were in alignment with the unfolding reality, how much we were within our own thoughts. So as you put it, I think one way to take it up as it comes is one thing, but I would rather feel that it should be driven by a vision. That if we can try to envision, it may not be exactly the way it will unfold, but it will be guiding the type of future we want to create for us. So what is the vision that drives us? And if we go back any time in the past, I'm sure all people always had a grand vision of the future where everybody is happy, healthy, and prospering and doing the right things. And the way things always unfolded in terms of various factors coming in and disruptions happening due to social factors, technology, or values. But that doesn't stop us from envisioning a future, even now, the type of thing we would like to have. And design being a very potent tool, which has got a lot of possibilities to help us in shaping that. I think we are at a better situation today because we have got so many good tools and technologies, but at the same time, we are also having a lot of challenges which were never there before. So it's a very complicated scenario right now. But the guiding factor would be the values. As I said, basically, design has to follow the heart. It can't be dominated by the mind. Like techniques, technologies would be there, but the type of life we want to create for everyone. And here I mean all stakeholders, which is not just the human systems, but nature should be the larger context in which we have to operate. So I think when we envision the future, it has to be not anthropocentric or human-centric, but taking all stakeholders into account. And
Yes.
designers, we have always been solving problems which are brought to us by the industry or by some agency. The future challenges are where we have to bat for nature on our own initiative. It won't be brought to us by anybody else. So this is how I see we can explore the future scenarios.
Interesting. Yeah. It's anthropometric centric, or say human centric, as you say correctly. Nature.
It has been so far. I think there are two shifts. One is from the anthropocentric, human centric to ecocentric or ecological, environmental centric, and even larger to basic issues of this cosmic existence. Like we have a deeper cosmic existence, and then the roles which we are doing in life as professionals, as designers, and all that.
Right.
These are part of the larger reality. So without missing that, like the joy of living, if it's not coming through all these tools and gadgets, we are missing something. And there, I think design for evolution is the theme I would like to sort of address.
Design for evolution. Yes. Interesting. Thanks, Dilip. We'll continue if Pradeep wants to add to this or wants to discuss any other points. Okay.
So what we are talking, in fact, it's something very similar that I want to talk about the future and designing for the future, is the black boxing that is going on in the design thinking world and the de-skilling that is going on in the products that we tend to design now or hope to design now. We should decrease the black boxing and the de-skilling aspects. Everything should not be made easier and easier and easier and more convenient, which you don't understand. It's a very small component of the large picture that Dilip has given about the cosmic view of the whole thing. But I do feel that as devices get smarter, get smaller and become blacker, we don't know exactly what it is doing, how it is. That's why I made the comment that it unmuted itself. It could have. I don't know. Its possibility is there. So, and also the fact that the skills required to use your day-to-day products are becoming lesser and lesser. When you need to cook rice, you put it in a rice cooker. Press a button, it cooks rice perfectly for you. Now, I wonder if that is convenience or is it giving up an ability. It's like losing an eye. Suppose not being able to cook rice is equated to losing a small finger. Would you want to do that? So adding skill required to use products and removing the black box component in as many products as you can would definitely lead to a better quality of life, in my opinion. And that could be one of the ways of looking at designing for the future. We have been taking a path that is making everything simpler and everything automatic. You don't need to know, we'll do it for you. We know how to do it better than you know how to do it. And that I think need to back off from a bit.
Does this vision or the way of going ahead require some special kind of skills that you think the aspiring designers today should focus more on, or should it be just the way it's going on?
I think if you question everything, why you're doing something, this is automatic. And of course, you need to have the background sensitivity, the empathy that Dilip talked about with nature, with the cosmos, with other human beings. All that is given. I mean, any designer who comes into design without that may not even be able to design a nuclear bomb. Even that requires a patriotism, a certain commitment to your country. But given the fact that yes, you are familiar with the environmental issues, you are familiar with the connection between people and the environment, you're familiar with the relationship between people. If you put that in front of you, I'm sure you would be able to design. Baki is skills. Whether you make a beautiful form which may look beautiful today, not so beautiful tomorrow or not, is immaterial. The kind of materials that become available to you to manufacture is immaterial.
Yes.
The thought behind it is what matters.
So curiosity and sensitivity are two very important aspects for aspiring designers too. Empathy and all that. Now, along with us, I have a real young, galloping designer who has a clock which is far more into the future than it is in the present. So whose time is always quite ahead. Manan Surana, the young product designer.
Thank you.
Who's in a leadership role. Just a little bit about Manan, a little more about he's some person I also get inspired a lot about, because there are ways of looking at things which through our experience we have not been able to. I mean, there's a thick screen of our experiences, past experiences, which need to be broken through, and which I often see in the youth today, that they are in a position. So Manan, if I can ask you about how fast is your clock running, or how much ahead of present is it, and how do you see it?
Right. So you were talking about two different stages of how one goes about it. It could be either incremental, or you could be a leapfrogger. You know, you could be taking it. So I think that what we understand the world to be right now as designers, or as just humans living in an environment, I feel that we have constantly being on an incremental growth process as a race. But now with, you know, how Sir said that technology is becoming more, you know, there are specialized products for doing special things. Is it almost like losing a finger? And I very much agree with Sir, because that's what I felt with camera technology, being a wildlife photographer myself, that the technology over the ages went a lot back. The analog system and how beautiful that journey was, and how you valued each moment for it being a moment, now has been a constant hunger for just documenting anything and everything without any reason or any cause. So I think that leap is about to come. There's a lot of technology that has been introduced. COVID also was one of the reasons why we sort of got into the mindset of leapfrogging. Otherwise, it was almost like an evolutionary process, and it would have taken a lot of years. I never imagined my grandmother learning to use a TV remote or running the computer that, you know, smoothly, even though she's a professor in German herself, very well read. And I did not expect, because there are times, but then parallelly there are designers who are working on solving these problems for people, and how strongly, irrespective of age, everybody is now coping up is changing. So I definitely feel, sir, that what we were expecting 20 years down the line, or 2050 or 2035, is going to be here anytime in the next 3 years. So I feel that way.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for sharing your thoughts.
It was lovely to hear.
We'll again get back into the discussion.
Yes.
And I would like to ask one of the most prominent visionaries that we have here with us, Archana Surana ma'am, who for 24 years has evolved this Arch College of Design and Business into the vision that she has had. And at least we've seen it, you know, growing. Sometimes leapfrogging, sometimes just incrementally going. But there definitely is unpredictability today. But still, if you'd like to share some of your thoughts and views on this, maybe it's a good idea to do that now.
Thank you, Bhargav sir. I think today's session, I think it's very inspiring in the sense that design is something that's been very innate to an system. Our culture itself, if we look at generations of what we've created as a nation or within this part of the world, I have a very strong belief that India could actually guide the path for the world when it comes to design. And I'm a strong believer of it. because the word design itself came from the Western world. The whole mindset of design comes from a very colonial understanding, when it's a more egocentric approach to looking at exploitation of resources, people, and environment.
Mhm.
And on the other side, I today look at societies being more evolved, with the world being flat, with technology making us equal. Today we have a mobile handset in every hand. The world is at our doorstep. Everybody has the right to learn and educate. We are no more deprived. And in the society of abundance, there are more atrocities, or we are seeing more wicked problems coming up. With designers having created so much, and yet there is more scope for design because of the more egocentric approach of design, which probably needs to be more ecocentric now. The whole idea of moving from ego to eco is what the world needs today. And this is perhaps very much required. And when I see around, there's a whole, while we had nations which actually fought in the past for resources, today we have more than nations, we have very different level of power play, which is there when it comes to actually looking at how design will be governed. So with the artificial intelligence, the Web3 and other spaces, the way it's emerging, people say, I was sitting on a session and they're saying that we're becoming slaves of technology. I said, that's quite a strong word that you're using. But the truth is that the way algorithms are set in and the way the mankind is getting to actually adapt to these technological new tools, I don't see that, we've never had threat in the past. We always had a threat, while we call this as a VUCA world, it was always a VUCA world. That's what my understanding is. We were always in a world which was vulnerable. Either there was nations which were fighting, there were kingdoms which were into clashes. So always ambiguity and uncertainty has been a part of human existence. So, but I see that we've tried to make human lives, bring best to mankind, I'd say that, not to the environment, but to mankind. We've tried to bring in the best product and services to make our lives better. But are our lives really better when the world is actually going through mental health issues, right? So everything is manifested by the mental health, right? So today, design has a very strong role to play, because if the term design is understood globally in terms of empathy and understanding of and bringing imagination and ideation and creativity into the fold, I think there's a whole new opportunity for both younger people and people who are evolved as practitioners. All can really work on a very different level, collaborate, co-create. So I see a world collaborating and co-creating, and that's what fits into my vision, and a world which moves from an egocentric design approach to an ecocentric design approach. And we can, really stay in terms of the coexistence where we can honor and respect cultures, people, nations. Yeah, that's where I see that design can play a very strong role, especially in the space of governance.
No, that's you said it very well. I mean, especially the egocentric to ecocentric. Yes, we've taken so much from nature. We've taken so much from nature and kind of denuded it. We need to give it back through. Now, see, design, even design as a professional cannot be taken in isolation or in solo. It has to work within a system, which I personally feel that, because we are dependent on so many things. We are dependent on the evolution of different technologies coming in, how we utilize them, working with people, working in systems, working in society, working in a political system, the education system. Now, all these forces are so complex that a lone designer probably cannot. So design probably has to be integrated so well into leadership, into probably each and every profession that you can think of. And actually calling it as an isolated thing of design. It has to be a way of life, a part of our intrinsic thinking. So whether it's an engineer doing it, a scientist or a medical specialist doing it, or a leader doing it, this process naturally comes in. So in order to train students like this, I personally feel that our approach has to change a little bit into how to sensitize students. Now, I've made a statement to which you might like to debate. I've just generally sparked off a conversation.
You know, what you are saying, Bhargav, actually gave me a thought. As a thought experiment, suppose we just remove designers from the face of this planet. Would it really change anything? It wouldn't.
It will not.
Right? So then in that case, looking at it from that point of view, what is the role of a designer?
Precisely.
Everyone otherwise is a designer if he does things with a bit of thinking.
Yes.
Right? It's the potter who is turning the pot is also designing as he goes along.
Absolutely.
And the fellow who is designing the Kalashnikov gun to kill as many people as fast as he can is also doing his own job and is doing it well.
Precisely.
So if you look at it from that point of view, design as a profession nikalo, design as a way of thinking, introduce in everything, history, geography, political science, submit all those.
Right.
So then the future, as what kind of a future would you like to design for? If you take that term in the literal sense, what I would say is the future in which they pay the maximum to designers instead of to bankers.
Decreate the profession.
Yep.
So we had been talking about this in the past also, of decreating the designer, and each one becomes a designer. Each one has that capability within him. And in our past, craftsmen were the link which were doing this. And there was one-to-one relationship of the craftsman with the consumer. It was not a faceless consumer. Whereas in the design space, we are operating with faceless consumers.
Yes.
Faceless. And we need all people to become prosumers rather than consumers. Each one produces as well as consumes. So in this context, as Pradeep has stated, that widening this at all professions or all walks of life, people again connect with the act of creation. Each one is doing these things. And the concern and care which is involved in a craftsman doing something in a small community, he knows the person, he's doing it with care and love. And the customer is also waiting for him. It doesn't hasten the process. Even if it takes maybe 2 months to create a chapel, you will wait for him.
We'll wait for him.
This type of reconnect is required. And I think if you visualize a scenario where there are no professions any longer in the future, with all the enabling tools, what is lacking is the sensitivity and the joy of doing things. In the craft tradition, there was no division between leisure and work. Now we have sort of work, which is something boring, which we have to get it over with, and leisure is something else. So this division, which has happened in all aspects of life, I think that's the scenario we have to move towards, where everything is integrated.
So I think a lot of people believe this. So, yes, Archana ji, please.
Very well said. Yeah, I just have this thought that just occurred to me that one of the Cumulus conferences, they had this competition looking at what would be French luxury in 2074. So it was the Comité Colbert, which is the conglomerate of all the luxury brands. So what came up was that emotions is going to be luxury.
Emotions, yes.
Right.
Interesting.
So people are going to become so insensitive that really having emotions to be able to touch, be inspired is going to be something rare. Now, if we are looking at designing products when it comes to delight, creating an experience, and there's more and more experience, and there's more and experience, and we still there's no satiety.
Yes.
And where does that lie then? So while I'll go back to the Indian roots, the Indian ecosystem, how our heritage, our culture, our tradition, which is 5,000 years back, and our, and even different cultures across the globe for that matter, how sustainable they were in terms of the, looking at the happiness index of people with the kind of work they did. I mean, the creation that they, that happened. So, I mean, today it's all about the bubble business. It's all about making a big impact and selling it off. It's like, it's just like, it's so bubble in nature, and we've been seeing those crashes, or the bubble crashes. So it's been happening so often now. So while we are aware of it now, because we can see it now, what's happening across the globe. So there's a great opportunity in terms of how designers, if we see that everybody is a designer, and Bhargav sir saying that taking this education to the school level, to every step within governance, to leadership, to businesses, I think it's very important. But how many of us are really able to really give up, or maybe sustain in this? I would call it is really right now it's brutal. I mean, the whole system is quite why we do talk about sensitivity, but it does not allow any space for anybody who does not fit into this ecosystem. And today, once upon a time, you said that if you wanted to have your own, you wanted to become a yogi, you had to go to, the Himalayas, right? Today, if you are out of this whole system, you are almost like a yogi in the city itself, right? So I think there is a dichotomy in terms of where we are and where we are. So I think this dialogue is very productive on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And adding to what all of you have been saying, I'll even say that if we are going to have design as an isolated subject, then we generally tend to land up with a lot of creative garbage. And this creative garbage, or needless innovations, which ultimately goes into landfills. Now, this is what needs to be really addressed. Unless you join hands with everyone and what is important for people? Life, living. In order to live, what do we do? What do we need? So, certain things related to agriculture, certain things related to society. So, I mean, understanding all these things and then decluttering the creative garbage and doing meaningful things is what the kind of sensitization is required for the present day students. And apne aap, you'll walk into future with a nice feeling, I guess. This is again something to trigger off sparks of arguments. Anyone for it, against it?
We have to also be, at the same time, we need to be practical, right?
Practical.
So, the so-called creative garbage that you are making, the question still remains, what do you do in design schools? You're not going to suddenly close down all design schools, right? You still have to teach design. So what is it that you'll do differently?
Sensitized.
Sensitize them how? We did one exercise that Bhandari designed, after that nothing. The last 30 years. So there needs to be a greater thought given to what is really sensitization, and also to the larger picture of unblack boxing and making skill-based thing. For example, to encourage people to assemble their own stuff or design stuff that can be assembled at the user end. To give a very extreme example, suppose this mobile phone that all of us carry around in our pockets, if their manufacturers were encouraged to manufacture only parts that we put together like Lego to create the specifications that you want, then they screaming, for 1 year they screamed of the shape of the teardrop on top of the screen that would hold the whatever microphone or camera or something. The shape, whether it be U-shaped or round shape or teardrop shape, I think they made hangama on it. They must have spent 1,000 hours of prime time discussing it.
Yeah.
So if you start to design again, not thinking only from the point of view of convenience and easier to use, and your
Yes.
user, what is the interface called?
UX.
UX, user interface.
User interface, and making it dumber and dumber and dumber till someone who has no intelligence, the chimpanzee can use it. I think it should be made a little more complex.
It's a glorified way of saying making users lazy.
Correct. So I think you need to bring in a certain amount of skill in the use of everything that you have, that you use. So
Right.
like for example, the ready-made garment market, where the instant gratification requirement has led to billions of garments being put into landfills or incinerated.
Yeah.
It's led to slave labor to bring down prices. All kinds of things are there for instant gratification. And what Dilip talked about, you wait for it to get made. What's the hurry?
Yeah.
We have the technology today. You don't even have to have thousands of meters of cloth printed and kept ready for you to choose from. You make your own doodle and we digital print it by afternoon, give it to a tailor. It might take a week or two, give it to you, and in the size and thing that you want.
Right.
But at the same time, this thing has to be damned expensive.
Mhm.
It can't be cheap, so you can't collect. How many shirts do you have, Dilip, in your wardrobe?
Maybe 10, 15.
Right? Now, 10, 15 shirts is too much, because he can buy it for a couple of thousand rupees a shirt. If he had to pay 12,000 rupees a shirt, he wouldn't have more than two, I can guarantee.
No, but these 10, 15 have been with me for last 10 years.
That means only one shirt a year.
Right.
I might be having 30, out of which 25 of them are in a cupboard called my creative garbage cupboard.
So what happens if you want to make the farmer reasonably well off, if you want to make the spinner, the weaver, the printer, the tailor and all that, and if you go through the number of hours that they have worked on this stuff and actually pay them the wages that you pay, minimum wages in a city to a laborer, you will find that the shirt costs 25,000 rupees.
Right.
And I've done this little exercise for myself to check, and it is true. And whereas you are buying it for 2,000 rupees, which is most probably how many hours of work for us, Bhargav? One lecture you give in a university?
Yeah. Oh, you need to do a lot of work for that. Yes, you can say.
That is a skill that you have developed through your lifetime, right?
Yeah.
But you come and deliver it in 2 hours. Okay.
Yeah.
You can pay 2,000 rupees for it, for which you can buy a shirt that was grown, spun, carded, woven, printed, dyed, tailored, transported, put into an air-conditioned showroom, with a pretty girl coming and showing it to you and telling you how good you look in it. So all that gets taken care of. So this distorted value system of the things that we use also leads to this consumerism, wastefulness, and this disrespect for the things that you have.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I said. We are in an economy where there's so much of abundance, and it has created its own problems for the planet now. So I think somewhere there has to be a mindset shift and a heart set where we started out with, that where is the heart? That's where probably the question is. And a lot of the shift will come from the heart, not from the mind also, perhaps. And that's where probably I think education has a greater role in terms of shaping rather than just degrees and looking at finishing the curriculum. It's about shaping minds. And I see you're three very senior and ID professionals here, and you've gone through your journey of, making the best, having all the name and fame, and yet you have chosen to live with a humble lifestyle, right? So that's an opportunity. So I think people somehow need to understand the importance of all the abundance that we have around us. So somewhere that gratitude has to be there in the youth and the new generation, which is probably a difficult task. Because I think the generations who spoiled them also is ours. That's the onus that we need to take now. And That's where I feel that, when it comes to designing the future, what is this new generation actually looking at with AI, artificial intelligence coming in? There's so much of creative garbage that can be created, because design for manufacturing will become key. When the computer is just generating the best, what you would take months to do, it is creating for you in moments. So I think this is going to be a great disruption for the planet. Right. So design for manufacturing is something where I think designers need to get more hands-on. The more they're going to get hands-on, they're going to understand the value of resources, material, putting them together, bringing technology in. And I think that's where design schools will have a greater and larger role to play.
True.
Connecting them with the community, making them work with them. So rather than working on the computers where they think that technology can do it all for them, that will not be the case. If you really have to be a good designer, what I see in all in the Western world also, people have been really hands-on. They know the skill. Today we have our craftsmen here in this part of the world. They don't have the craftsmen. The designers are the craftsmen, and they value the craftsmanship. Whereas the new generation in India, they probably think that our heritage, what you have, the cultures, I mean, the living are there with us. They're taking it for granted. They're not realizing that, this is a great asset that we possess. And, building a skill requires, years and years of hard work. And I know the whole apprenticeship model, which exists in the Western world, where people really go through this kind of work that they do hands-on, that has built their understanding of form and aesthetics, which probably as a culture we have inherited it. And I think we need to build on it. So that's where I see there's a great opportunity.
Yeah, very, very well put and assimilated. I'd like to ask again, put a question like this, that, okay, we are talking about industrial design today, it being the Industrial Design Day, World Industrial Design Day. Now, the whole, I personally feel that the meaning of industrial design is slowly disintegrating. Now, if you talk about industrial design, what does it mean to us? Don't we mean that it's making physical products in mass production and make them useful, and with all that user experience and all that we talk about, aesthetically pleasing and industrial design. But if you look at the technologies which are coming in, which are going to make even manufacturing possible in every home, not mass produced. I can create my own little device, with mass production there. So a good amalgamation of craftsmanship, your own thought, your personal requirement, and you are doing something for yourself. Buildings are being made that way. I've heard about buildings made specifically through 3D printing.
Yeah.
These technologies, if you really look at it, say even talk about India in the year 2047 or say 2050. I already see these things creeping in there. So if I ask our young designer Manan, are you in alignment with this thought, or do you have some other?
Sir, I'm in complete alignment. I think that it is definitely something that everybody is thinking about, and it depends person to person of how they live their lives. I feel everybody likes to do things their own way. Throughout our upbringing, especially Indians, the way you have been brought up, you have different ways of interacting with your surroundings and what your daily life schedules are. So I'm sure that when prototyping and advancement within accessibility of what you need and what you want is right at your home, the amount of visualization time, the amount of time for self would change a lot also. that, you know, you need things earlier. People spent most of the time trying to find out and trying to meet their ends, right? Today, we have more time to stop worrying about ends to meet and more time to really work on our thinking or imaginative or personal skills of or what each individual wants to do. So definitely, I feel there will be more space for self-reflection, which is going to be on the bright side in the coming time. It looks a little threatening right now, but I feel that with technology being so accessible and everybody being so receptive that they have become now, it will definitely be a boon.
Okay. Right. Interesting.
Bhargav sir, we have, interestingly, we have Brij Vallabhji who's here with us, who's a master awardee craftsman, Indigo, the Blue Gold. So, Brij Vallabhji, can you, if you're there, we can invite them also to give their views. We have Dyuti, who's on the screen with us. She's a communication designer, has a very good critical view about things. It would be very interesting to hear their perspectives as well. In very short, they can even contribute.
Yes.
So I'm a strong believer of the idea of sensitization and moving away from desensitization, but equality is equally important, because what we need, I feel, is to move away from one-upmanship, even in terms of, like, say, the food cycle or things where naturally that one-upmanship is present. So we need to move towards walking equally, hand in hand, while finding a system of respecting boundaries. So that is my take on what I feel about the future. But sensitization is the main point that I'd like to make here, which has been used extensively. The word has been used extensively. But I definitely feel that if we work on not letting technology and all the comforts that we have desensitize us and make us prone to laziness, as was used by Pradeep sir, as the word was used by Pradeep sir, we can, like, I actually don't know what the methods should be very clearly towards sensitization. I'm still figuring them out. I'm still working on them, what the best methods are. But I think that's the most powerful tool we have for moving ahead in the future. So that is my take on the future. The other thing I feel is, which I have coined in my comics very often, is that we don't need intelligence. We need innocence. If we can pave a world forward with more innocence and less intelligence, because we have enough intelligence in our world, and I think that is where there is a power play. That is where there is that is where our natural intuition, instincts and sensibilities are dying. So if we can do away with the importance that our culture gives to intelligence and give more importance to innocence, and not letting that be abused in our culture, but valued as a whole, I think we can do a lot of good for the future. So these are my 2 bits.
Interesting viewpoints. Yes, I think you've charged up the discussion with some interesting thoughts, and I'm sure there must be some other people.
To sum it up, I think, as you pointed out, center on the process rather than the end product. And sensitizing is a process at different levels, whether it is to sensory inputs or your inner intuition, as she mentioned, innocence. And all layers of sensitivity have to be brought into play in the design education as such. And the ability to see afresh at each point.
And very
skills, of course, technology is providing, as you said, the whole spectrum is bringing it closer, but having this deeper connection is very important, and not losing that innocence. Reclaiming our childhood innocence, I think, is
absolutely
very important.
Absolutely.
So what I hear is when you say innocence, I hear experimental, being
Open.
playful and challenging at the same
Right.
time.
Yes.
So when the moment you hear innocence, it's like, one probably gets the feeling that, being
Yeah.
quiet or being a little dumb or just being a little relaxed, rather than being exciting,
Being playful like a child.
playful
Yes,
and
being playful like
exciteful
a child.
and challenging. Kid would take smaller challenges, and then you become better and better at it. So
Right.
I think
I
that's
think-
the beauty of innocence.
My take on innocence is that it's the lack of intelligence, where if you're not being smart, you're not being
Naive.
smart because you're taught to think a certain way, but you're being, you're working with your
Original.
Yes.
Being original, expressive, confident, with courage. And these are I think, the attributes of being innocent. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah, so in my summing up again, going back to the practicality of the situation and what can you do at Arts to add more value to the design program. And one of the things that comes to my mind after listening to all of you is that you need to get into a skill at a very deep level in the 3 or 4 years that you have your program.
Right.
You always had it, you were deep into music and you continued with that. I don't know how much, and I think it will contribute a lot to you as a professional in the profession of design. But similarly, all the students that go through the colleges of design don't necessarily have that kind of a deep commitment
Passion
to
for something.
skill.
Yeah, agreed, sir.
Right. So it could be,
yeah.
So it could be drawing, it could be carpentry, it could be pottery, but it has to be deep and it has to go down really deep, not the surface thing that we all do.
Yeah.
I'm sure none of our furniture designers can knock together a chair by themselves. But
I've-
ideally, they should be able to.
So how I address it with students is that you should have an anchor. Like a ship has, when it does not want to move much, but still stay afloat. So an anchor point or that passion really helps. I've also felt that that my observation skills grew tremendously because of wildlife.
Yeah.
Because when you're in nature and you're just observing and you're open to be innocent, that anybody could be anywhere, and you are not behaving as if you know the nature. I've visited the sanctuary maybe more than 100 times. I've driven it. I know every nook and corner, but I can't be intelligent about it because I know the nature and the wildlife out there is way more intelligent. He can see me, but I cannot see it.
Right.
So I think that is something that is I have really learned. Patience is something that I've really learned from having photography really hooked on to me as an anchor point. So definitely a skill is.
Yes, that's
strongly agree with Pradeep sir.
Important point, Pradeep, you mentioned. Yes, and that skill can be anything. It can be people are building artificial intelligence. I would rather go and think of artificial stupidity and integrate that into it.
Right.
Make it more human.
We should have more occasions to celebrate our failures.
Yes.
Yeah, so I have a version here about failure. So people think that when they don't do certain things and they fail, that's failure. Failure is when you've actually put in your best and still you've not achieved.
Yeah.
That's where failure, and that gives you a learning that takes you one notch ahead. But one not doing something, and that's either the word failure cannot be put in that space.
Yeah.
The kind of failure that we today want to cherish and we want to talk about, I think there has to be this distinction that has to be very clear among people. That failure is all about doing it and not then yet. But you still reach somewhere because you really failed in doing it. So I think overall, I think we've had a great conversation.
Yes.
Putting skills, sensitivity, innocence, what we just talked about right now, failures, qualities. I think it's interesting that the conversation has actually shaped and moved on. Yeah.
Egocentric to ecocentric.
Right.
so many things, I mean, have really come up, and I'm sure everyone who is part of this panel, I mean, part of this discussion today, who are listeners as well as viewers, as well as participants, have interesting things to take back, and let's hope we can work on that. And should I leave it to Archana ji to generally wrap up the
I think all of us have wrapped it up well. I just wanted that, with World Design Organization, as we are a member, I thought, it would be great to have this conversation, and with such established practitioners who've actually created some benchmark products for the country and the nation and made them global products. I think it's a privilege that Arch College could host this session, and in a very short time, but anybody who gets to hear this session, I'm sure they'll get the deeper understanding of what design and what design means and its application in our daily lives.
Yeah.
So I think that's a key takeaway, and it's on my thanks to our design culture dean, Bhargav sir, because design culture is a great new initiative which we started during the COVID period, because resilience, that's where resilience comes. Design, and we created this idea of reaching out to schools, reaching out to educators at the school level, impacting our industry, our people with the deeper understanding and the application of design, rather than seeing it only from a visual perspective and the aesthetic part of it, the beauty part, the outer beauty part of it. So I think we've really done some good work during these last 2 years with the Pink City Design Confluence, and we hope to bring we've had a design culture learning series where we've had more than around, every time we've had around 12 amazing speakers who've spoken about their body of work and inspired our students. And we take their work as an inspiration for the students to look at some ideas that they can nurture and build upon. So this was our third design learning series that we did. So do take the time off. Some of them will be your great friends, and I'm sure you could also, while you know about them, but a lot of young people will need to hear the work done by the veterans, I mean, with the veterans like you, and your work needs to be with the future generations, and an educational institution is good. Our duty is to make sure that we connect the dots, and we connect the generations, we connect the heritage, we connect our educators, our practitioners, and our students with the future, what they would like to create. Because we are, as design, the beauty of design is that none know anything, yet whatever our experiences, we can share as designers. Right. And that's the beauty of design education, that it does not bind, and it leaves that power of freedom, and with freedom comes a lot of power. And I think our students need to use that power very effectively. And our youth need to, embrace that with design, they get so much of power in their hand. And this is the wonderful education, because I am a self-taught designer. While my background is in fashion, with that skill, while he was talking about his skill, you were talking about your music skill. I was just thinking my little skills in fashion, where I could cut and sew and make, I realized the importance that how important is it to have a good finished garment, and wear it and feel the experience of having a beautiful textile on you, which is handcrafted, hand woven, hand done. So I think the beauty of, there's emotion attached into it. So when you look at industrial design, when there's a use and throw culture, why is it? Because we don't value, it's faceless, and we don't value the connections. And how do we bring that value in industrial design? While fashion to jewelry to interiors to the gadgets, the appliances, all comes under industrial design. But how do we bring that value to industrial design? Is that what probably is the question for all of us?
Yeah, that leaves us. Yeah, thanks. And that leaves us behind with a good thought to take it back and work upon. And since paying respect to time, we can time to wind up, and I'd like to personally thank Dilip and Pradeep to have come in and shared your amazing views. And the rest of you, I'll come and personally thank you on the 9th of July. But Pradeep, who is in Baroda right now, and Dilip in Kolhapur. And thank you so much. Stay in touch. And
thank you, Bhargav, and everybody. It was very good
Yeah.
to connect with youngsters and what is
Yes,
their aspirations, and they are in alignment, I feel.
right.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Great, thanks.
Bye.
Okay,
Happy World Industrial Design Day to everyone.
thank you.
Happy World Industrial Design Day to you too, sir.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.